Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This video is part of my series on the individual tribes of Werewolf the Apocalypse. I will be going into each tribe covering the same basic details, their history and mythology, their biases, strengths, weaknesses, and a bit of information about their camps, their sub-organizations within the tribes. Now, this is going to be a bit of a boilerplate for all of these, so I don't have to redo a video every single one. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about this tribe. When one talks about the Uktena, one has to talk about their relationship with the other two Native American Garou tribes. This is because the Uktena see all three tribes as descended from three brothers. Wendigo was younger brother, the one prone to act first and think later, if he thought at all. Impulsive and brash. Middle brother was the Croatoan, would think things through a bit, just until he made the decision, and then nothing could sway him from the decision. And then Uktena, our older brother, the one who guides and watches out for the two younger brothers and thinks things through, looks at all angles of things, and then makes his decision. And this was the relationship the Uktena had with the others. They were the mentors to middle brother, and younger brother would look up to middle brother, while not necessarily trusting older brother. And this is how they related to each other. Now, all the other tribes have certain commonalities, namely the Impergium and the Wars of Rage. For the Uktena and the other two Native American tribes, they did not participate in either of these. What happened was, according to their stories, Garou came from the west, told them in their lands in the plains and steppes of Asia and Mongolia and all that area, that they had to start killing the humans. Uktena wisely saw that killing these humans would strengthen them. If you kill only the weakest humans, then what's left are going to be the smartest, the most adaptive, the cleverest. And that will yield them developing better technology, better weaver craft. And with that, they'd be able to defend themselves from and eventually start hunting the Garou, because they would be afraid of them. And so, the Uktena convinced the other two brothers to take their humans with them, cross over what would be called the Bering Land Bridge today, into North America. As they journeyed, Wendigo, younger brother, liked the cold up north, and so he and his people settled in the areas of Canada and the northern U.S. and that area. Croatoan liked the lush green, and so settled along the plains and the swamps and forests of the East Coast, and somewhat up into the Pacific Northwest. Uktena liked the heat of the desert southwest, and that is where Uktena set up and moved into. And the stories go that how Uktena gained Uktena as their totem goes like this. Younger brother went to a lake as the deer and game were growing scarce. And he saw this snake with antlers and a glowing stone in its head rise up out of the water and make the call of a deer. And the deer came to the edge of the lake, and this serpent devoured it. Younger brother went, "That is why the game is scarce. This thing eats it all." And so he threw his spear, which shattered on the scales, and he tried to claw it. And his claws broke and shattered, and he realized he could not hurt it. And so he went back home, determined to tell the others about it to get help. But when he came home, he found his son had drowned. And so, lost in grief, he forgot to tell the story, forgot to warn the others. Middle brother found this thing. And when middle brother found it, it had come out of the water. And he tried to hurt it, tried to stab it, and again found it could not be hurt. And he asked it to go away, and it said, "I will no longer feed on the deer. I have found much more interesting things to hunt." And middle brother went back home, determined to contact older brother about this, to warn older brother about it. But when he got home, his wife had been killed in a rock slide, and he was overcome with grief and could not tell the tale. Then older brother came because the hunters were not coming back. And older brother went looking for signs, and it found places where it followed the tracks of hunters. They came to where their tracks crossed the tracks of this great beast, this great snake beast. And the hunters would go up. There was no signs of a fight. But the hunter tracks would disappear. So older brother spoke to the spirits around there, and it found out from what they saw that the hunter would come up to it. This stone on its head would glow, and the hunter would walk right into the great beast's mouth. And so older brother continued tracking it, talking to the various spirits to see if any of them saw any weaknesses or any way that they could hurt it. And as it walked, as it asked the spirits, older brother asked Spider if it had seen this great beast. And Spider said that no, it had not. But it had heard the sounds like a large snake passing by. And then there was a great tree-like thing moving past with different colored bands. And then there was a sound like earthquake, thunder. And then that would pass, and then the rest of this great moving wall would go on. And Uktena asked Spider where this sound came from, when it passed. And Spider said, on its seventh band. And so older brother tracked this beast further. And eventually, older brother found it. And older brother found it asleep. And so older brother took his spear, walked up to the beast stealthily, found a spot where the scales separated, laid the tip of the spear just between the scales, and woke the beast, saying, "Beast, I know how to kill you. I know where your heart lays and how to strike it. Leave these lands and never come back." And the snake, the great snake, said, "You are honorable, for you did not kill me in my sleep, though you could have. You are brave because you risked your loved ones dying just for seeing me. And you are cunning, for you have found my weakness and found a way to track me. I would take you as my servants. I would be your patron. For all you need to do is seek out secrets for me. And with that, I will do better than leave your peoples alone. I will protect them, for they will be my peoples." And Uktena accepted this arrangement, or should I say older brother, and thus they named their tribe after this great snake beast, Uktena. And that is the story of how the Uktena gained their totem. And that describes their very nature. They look at things, they analyze. Now, the rest of the world has called North America the Pure Lands. When they first came, they did not see any trace of the worm. Except, of course, for images of feathered serpents and stuff like that. What they saw, though, was wrong. And the Shadow Lords, who came with the conquistadores, they found under one of the Uktena cairns a sealed bane. Because powerful banes, it could take multiple packs of Garou to take down. And the Uktena, Wendigo, and Croatoan were never that numerous. And so losing a Garou to them was far more than losing a Garou for any of the other tribes. And so their approach was to seal the truly powerful banes away. And that is what they did. And that is what the conquistadores and the Shadow Lords found. And the Shadow Lords misunderstood this. and they freed the Bane to kill it. And eventually they did, but it drove the conquistadores and the Aztecs insane in the process, and led to the violence against them. At least that is how their stories go. And the Shadow Lords reacted to this by thinking that these strange North American tribes were servants of the worm, and the shape changes with them were clearly allies with them, and they began to kill everything. But that story is for another time. Like when I talk about the Shadow Lords next week. What did end up happening is the Shadow Lords ended up killing one of the closest allies among the changing breeds to the Uktena, the Camazotz. And to the Uktena, the Camazotz were so inoffensive that the fight against them gained no one glory. But the death cry of the last Camazotz echoed through the Umbra and stirred something it should not have. For the Uktena believe that the Eater of Souls aspect of the worm heard this call, heard this cry, and came to North America. Came to the island of Roanoke, where, to stop it, Middle Brother, the Croatoan, sacrificed their entire tribe to send it back, to throw it back to whence it came. And from there, you ended up with the Uktena having to try and find the cairns and the banes sealed away by the Croatoan. And then you had the Wormcomers, the Jamestown, and all these different colonies formed along the east coast. And their reaction to finding these cairns unattended, and then finding banes under some of them. They seized them. They woke up some of these banes, trying to kill them. The Uktena were able to conceal some of these from them and take over many of these cairns ahead of them. But we all know what happened, at least in the U.S., we know what happened to the Seminole, the Creek, the Cherokee, all those eastern tribes. And from this great removal, from the many that died due to the diseases brought in by the Wormcomers, they lost many of their kinfolk, and this led to a great debate among them. Eventually, it was settled in a combat challenge where it was decided that they would accept any group that fled from the Wormcomers, that was not part of the Wormcomers and was in fact oppressed by them as potential for kin. And this gave them knowledge about the shape changers from Africa, because the kinfolk from the Swara and Simba and those different groups were among the slaves brought over. And so the Uktena learned about them from those who still carried those stories. When later you had the Chinese coming over and being oppressed by the railroad builders, they picked up stories from the Chinese shifters about the beast courts and all those things. And when you had Polynesians come to the mainland at some point, they learned about them. And they began expanding out. They expanded to Hawaii and the Polynesian islands where they could. When they reached Australia, it was after they heard about the Bunyip. They sent some of their people to talk to the Bunyip, to try and learn more about these strange shapeshifters who are technically Garou, but had taken for their wolf kin the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine. And when thylacine was killed off, when the stories and when the black spirals again tricked the Shadow Lords into killing off the Bunyip, they did their best, the Uktena did, to take over these cairns, to try to defend them, even though the spirits of Australia became hostile to them. But the Uktena are, in a way, a tribe that has accepted the oppressed peoples around the world. Some of their members have gone into the Middle East and taken kinfolk from there. And that is just how the Uktena do things. They've gone into some of them have gone into Africa. But the Uktena have always been a tribe of secrets and trackers down of secrets. One of the more interesting stories is their story about the Anasazi. You see, to them, their stories of the Anasazi are how they fell, were witches had taken over advising them, because they had not stopped, the Uktena had not stopped and spoken to these tribes, the Anasazi, in a while. And so witches were able to come in and start guiding them and teaching about how to gain power through eating the flesh of people. And this is why, even though they were not part of the groups who voted on the litany, the Uktena see the wisdom in it. And what happened was that as a result of these, when the Uktena came in and found out what was going on, they summoned the spirits to dry up the land, to weaken it so that they could then come in and slay everyone, kill them all. And they eradicated the Anasazi, and the ones that they could save, the ones that were not tainted, they picked up, guided to an area, and raised and cultivated them into the Pueblo peoples. But they then told about this story to Middle Brother, and Croatoan saw stuff wrong in the Mississippian mound builders and treated the mound builders the same way, and that led to their death, and it was an overreaction because it could have been dealt with just a little bit of precise application of force, not the destruction of an entire group. And so Uktena from that point decided that they would not tell the other brothers about things like this, and they would deal with it themselves. Now, when you talk about the camps of the Uktena, there are a number of them, but the one that is really the most important, the one that the Uktena automatically, as a tribe, give the words of anyone in this camp great consideration, is a camp called the Bane Tenders. And what the Bane Tenders are is they are a camp that goes around and knows all the sealed banes, knows how to keep them sealed, make sure that there are those there who know how to seal them back up, to maintain the seals. And if they start talking about there is a problem with this bane, the Uktena know they need to take it seriously. And this goes to the Uktena's whole thing about being the keepers of secrets, the finders of secrets. Now, their treatment of the Metis is fairly enlightened. You see, they recognize that the parents committed a crime, and they deal any punishment to them. Not necessarily death, usually a appropriate punishment. But the Metis themselves, it's not their fault. And in fact, the Uktena tend to believe that the specific deformities serve a purpose. That at some point, that specific deformity is going to play an important role in a Cairn's life, or in that Garou's life. And that purpose is why they were born. And so, yeah, Metis still have it hard, because they still can't be seen around normal people until they undergo their first change. And of course, they can't hide their deformities. And they're born closer to the wolf than either human or lupus. But they don't go out of their way to punish or abuse the metis like other tribes would. And so with that, I end this video talking about the Uktena. The conclusion is that they are a mysterious tribe, intentionally so, for many reasons. And so, my next video in the series is going to be on the Shadow Lords. Until then, I'd like you all to remember, have fun and keep gaming.